Greetings, pig members and friends of the Professional Investors Guild. Welcome to a new video series I'll be doing from time to time called Ask the Pig. Now, we've done some Q&A on our monthly teleconference call. Certainly, I answer questions on a daily basis from the members of the Professional Investors Guild. But just thought I'd shoot out a video every now and again, just answering some of the questions that I receive on a daily basis for things that maybe you haven't heard before, haven't thought of, just some little tips and tricks that would help those of you who are beginners and even some of you who are experienced investors. But I received a question over the last, I think it was yesterday, the day before, from Charles, who is one of our members. And he says, Matt, I know that all contracts we submit to motivated sellers will have a 30 to 45 day contingency, stating there will be a grace period before we actually close on the house. So my question is, what would be the best response when explaining the process, basically saying that even though I offered to close fast on your home, I will not be able to give you a check for your home until on or before 30 to 45 days while I'm actually trying to find an end buyer. Now, Charles is a wholesaler, so he's saying, you know, how do I give myself time or buy myself time when my advertising or my bandit signs or whatever I was using said that I could close in as little as a few days? Well, that's true. We can close in a little as a few days, but it really depends on the deal. If we're doing a subject to and it's clean and, you know, we have good title and there's not a lot going on there, maybe we could close in a few days. If it's a smoking deal, a no-brainer, we don't care whether we have a buyer lined up or not, or we've got a cash investor that would, you know, help us buy it in a few days, we could close in a few days. But most of the time, that's not necessarily going to be a case. Now, going into it, and I've dealt with tons of motivated sellers over the last 10, 11, 12 years, very rarely do I have somebody say, well, I thought you said you could close in 3 days. Most people don't have that level of expectation, even if they saw that in your ad. However, it can't be pushed off real long, or they probably will start asking questions. I've not had any problems with asking for a 30-day escrow. Even if they called on an ad and they were expecting a fast close, if I go look at it, give them an offer, we come to terms, most people are okay with that 30 days. But typically what I will do, if they seem like they're in a hurry and if they need the money by a specific time, we can kind of work it out. Obviously, if it's a good enough deal, you could close in a week or two. But most of the time what I do is I say, hey, I'll put 30 days on the contract, but we'll probably close much sooner than that. So it gives me, legally, it gives me the 30 days that I might need in order to get it closed. But it gives them the expectation that we're closing much faster. So I'll say, hey, you know, my title agent will be contacting you. And then if there are delays or there's something that comes up, I'll just call them and say, you know, hey, I know I planned on closing in 10 days, but this has happened, or the surveyor's busy, or my home inspector can't get to it, so we need extra time. Whatever it is, there's plenty of reasons that you could use to back it up to get your full 30 days. If you want to try 45, go for it. I think as you get past 30, you probably get a little more pushback from motivated sellers. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, the second part of his question here is also, what if they agree to whatever I tell them, and then I say I have to have inspectors visit the home first, or I'm waiting for bank financing, and that he's saying that's maybe his excuse to buy some time. And what if they ask why I can't simply have the above done before putting their home under contract? That's a really good question. And from time to time, it's not very often, but I've had somebody say, well, why can't you do your inspections before you put it under contract? One thing you would not want to say is, you know, hey, I can't close for 30 days because I'm waiting on bank financing. That is something that will scare people off. If you're saying you're closing in 30 days, or you say, hey, we'll put 30 on the contract, but I'll probably close in a couple weeks, that's usually plenty of time for people. But when you promote yourself as being a cash buyer and now you say you're going to be waiting on bank financing, there's no reason to include that terminology or verbiage in anything that you do. So let's not talk about bank financing. However, saying that you need to have inspections is very reasonable. Every cash buyer, even somebody who's going to close in 3 days and has cash, is going to require an inspection of some sort most of the time. In that case, it's very reasonable to say, you know, I need X amount of time in order to do my inspections. You know, again, that's a normal kind of thing. But I would never do inspection. If somebody says, well, why don't you do your inspections before we put it under contract? I'd never do that. No buyer would be willing to do that unless, like I said, it was just a smoking deal and you wanted to take the risk. But most of the time, we're not going to do any kind of inspections until I have it under contract. Even though I'm the buyer, I'm not even trying to buy time in order to flip it or wholesale it to somebody. I'm the buyer on these deals. I have the cash to buy these deals, and I'm still not going to do it until I've had my inspections. And I'm not going to do those inspections till I'm under contract, because what if I spend, you know, inspections aren't cheap, for those of us who are truly buying property. If it has a septic tank, it's $420 for me to have it pumped and certified. I got to spend $300 on a survey. I got to spend $250 on a home inspection. If I have a termite inspection, there's another $100. I could be spending $1,000 to $1,500, and if I don't have them legally bound under contract, I could spend that $1,500, go to them and say, okay, everything checked out, I'm ready to go ahead and move forward with it. And say, oh, I sold it to somebody else. Well, I mean, so obviously I'm not putting my money at risk until I have this thing tied up under contract. So that is a completely reasonable thing for you to explain to them, that say, hey, I can't spend all this money on inspections till you and I have a contract. And that contract's going to have to give me 30 days, but I can probably close much sooner. But the other thing, Charles, is to understand is that one of the most important aspects of being an effective wholesaler is having a strong buyers list. And a strong buyers list is built by coming to investor clubs like the Professional Investors Guild, networking with investors in your area. But you really need to have a very active, list. And most people will tell you that list can be extremely long, but you kind of partition it off into your few people can close right now, cash, they're good buyers, and then if they don't buy a deal, you can kind of go out to your level 2 buyers who are pretty fast, and then you kind of just open it up to your general list. But usually as a wholesaler, you kind of wholesale everything to kind of those same 4 or 5 people that can perform, and you got to have that list in place. I mean, it's not a good idea to go tying up things under contract and then just kind of hoping you can find a buyer. You really got to be doing the two concurrently. While you're finding properties, you need to also at the same time be building a list so that you are ready when you do find that property and don't have to wait 30 days. And when I find a wholesale deal, I've got hundreds of people on my buyers list. If I find a good wholesale deal, I know within 48 hours whether I'm going to have it sold. I send out my emails, and if there's no interest, I can cancel the deal, or I'm going to have a contract and I know I'm closing. So you really need to be building that list at the same time so that you don't have to go to buyers and start asking, to sellers and start asking for 45, 60, 90 days. If you're asking for that much time, you're really not ready to be in the wholesale game. So build that list, continue to find properties, and make sure that when you do them, that you do give yourself at least that 30-day window, but you can kind of buy some time and hold people over by letting them know that you'll probably close a little sooner, but you do have to have some inspections done. Charles, I hope that helps you. Feel free to always send me any questions. If you're new to the Guild, don't know much about it, check us out. Learn more about us at the ProfessionalInvestorsGuild.com. That's ProfessionalInvestorsGuild.com. Or you can send me an email at ProfessionalInvestorsGuild@gmail.com, and I'll respond to those as quickly as I can. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time on Ask the Pig.